disciplining my dog right now.
Oh, that's fine.
She's sitting on my floor.
Oh shit, that's the worst. My dog, bro. The other day, my dog threw up all over my bed. I was so mad. It was nasty.
What kind of dog do you have?
A corgi.
Okay, nice.
Oh shit, is that a baby husky?
Yeah, she's Alaskan Malamute. She's hard to yell at. Go.
I understand that.
Go lay down. Fucking mad at you. Okay, so medical marijuana does not have any medical benefits, and calling it medicinal is misleading, as it only harms the user, and there is no medical proof supporting that marijuana is medically beneficial in any way.
Yes.
I disagree.
All right. Well,
I have a hard time disagreeing because I have no like concrete evidence that I can like throw down that is like, here, look at this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I personally have that experience with it. I mean, obviously, growing up, most people have tried it or something like that. And I mean, yeah, it's fun. And I mean, if we're gonna make it a thing, I believe just to make it recreational, because the idea that medical is completely would be nonsensical in the idea that calling it medical while it has no medical benefits that have been shown is kind of misleading, especially for people to say that, because the Food and Drug Administration classifies that as a Class A substance, which is something that has no medical benefits. And
I think that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So if the FDA considers it to have no medical benefits, and then the Food and Drug Administration, which they're also influenced, you know, they have an entire board and directory and cabinet of doctors. And I wouldn't see how it would have any benefits in that sense. And so if it was, which I mean, I don't think it should be legal, because honestly, it just makes you tired and it makes you, you know, just not want to really do anything, which I mean is great sometimes, but you know, if everybody in society did that, nothing would happen. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, that's one. But if it was to be, instead of kind of just like bullshitting it and calling it, you know, medical, I think that's kind of stupid, because it really has no benefits. It hasn't been proven to have anything. I mean, there's certain like, not strains, but there's certain ways that it's been processed in the sense that it can help appetite, which, you know, that's the munchies. That's ideally what that is. But at the same time, there isn't, besides that, and that's in such small doses, it's like it doesn't get you high. But everything else, I mean, they've been showing that it's making eyesight worse, and a big push for medical marijuana was that it helped with glaucoma. There's no proof that that takes away back pain, anything like that, any sort of pain. I mean, people might say it does, but that's also part of the people, you know, when you're high as hell, nothing really hurts.
Well, but I mean, what would be the difference? I mean, couldn't you apply that same argument to any sort of painkiller that you get now?
Yes, because I mean, there's always side effects to drugs, and I mean, there's, you know, if you know, when you watch a drug commercial, it'll say this drug will do this and this, but then, you know, there's that one little fast voice that, you know, proposes all the possible side effects.
Right.
Now, if you were to make a commercial for marijuana, there wouldn't be any solid data that would be like, this will take away back pain, because saying that would not be true due to the fact that it's not proven by any medical or FDA to have anything like that. But there is a whole bunch of negative connotations that are associated with it. I mean, the only thing it helps with appetite, medically proven. I mean, that's.
But don't you think that's because it hasn't been medically studied like all these other drugs have?
Oh, but it has. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you look at the thing, I mean, it hasn't been to the extent, but I mean, because they haven't really considered it medicinal until, you know, maybe the last 2 decades. But it's still possibly medicinal, but that's in the last 2 decades. Prior to that, you know, they just considered it just a drug, and, you know, it's just a crime to have it, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, they still had almost, you know, 2 decades of study on it, and they've done actually extensive research on it, which, believe it or not, they have. I mean, not as much as some other things, but they have done a lot of research. And the only things that research have shown is that in small concentrated doses that can help with appetite. But
That's
smoking,
not the only.
that's all it has.
No, it hasn't. I mean, maybe for like the type of information that you're looking for, but I promise you, if you go to Google right now and you type in the medical benefits of marijuana, there's going to be 1,000 different articles and studies that show that it does benefit this and that and this and that.
Now,
but
yeah,
it's still a Schedule 1 drug. So until somebody like the DEA will reschedule it and will acknowledge that it might have some medicinal benefits, then it's never going to be taken seriously by the masses. So all these studies are going to be kind of seen as like taboo almost.
I agree with that in a sense, because the thing is that so you and I can both agree that it's a fact that marijuana is still a Class A substance and it's considered illegal in most places because
illegal and has no medicinal value.
Yeah, and that's what it's considered to be by the FDA. However,
Right.
if you look, there's certain things like there's the drugs, the supplements, like the pills called like cannabinol and stuff like that, which I'm sure you're familiar with. I'm familiar with. In cannabis oil, there's like pure cannabis. There's a whole bunch of different, there's like CBD. There's a whole bunch of different, cannabinols.
Yeah.
And so there is certain cannabinols, like the one that's used in the pill, that will help with appetite. However, the ones that are found in weed, such as the psychoactive substances, those haven't had any medical research. All the medical research that you've seen that has that is for appetite, something, or maybe even there might be even some slight pain relief, something like that. However, the act of smoking marijuana is actually that what they've shown is that long-term smoking of marijuana, it's resulted in cancer, which I mean, inhaling anything burning into your lungs is going to result in cancer. I mean, that's unarguable from any standpoint. I mean, there's no reason why marijuana versus anything else. I mean, anything, inhaling paper, anything like that. But then at the same time, the psychoactive sense of it, that has really no benefit. And if anything, it's been proven that it can affect people's eyesight. It can cause paranoia and induce and even start schizophrenia if people are kind of subject to that. I mean, that's what it's been proven to do, smoking it.
But listen though, okay, I'll pick this as a specific when you said schizophrenia.
Yeah.
If you look at the usage rate of marijuana, it has steadily went up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As say since the 60s or 70s, whenever you take. But anyways, it's on a steady uphill climb. Why is something like schizophrenia also not on a steady uphill climb? If smoking marijuana can lead to schizophrenia, it seems like if there's more people smoking marijuana, then there's going to be more people that are schizophrenic.
Because just like an allergy and stuff like that, some people are preset. I mean, you're familiar with someone's genetic code. I mean, everybody's diverse and they have different. Nobody's the same in that sense. And so there can be certain things in your genetic code that can be triggered by certain things. Like for example, like an allergy. Like there could be one person in the world that's allergic to something very strange and nobody else would because of their genetic code. Like, let's say I'm allergic to bleach. Most normal people wouldn't be allergic to bleach, but it's something in my code, in the genetic code. And a lot of these things can be activated too, such as the fact that people can be more prone to having type 2 diabetes because, it's in their genes, it's in their genetic code, and it's been in their family. And, it might not even be that much of their diet, but, even just small, just having a little bit more, or not even more, but just having even the normal amount of what's considered normal sugars in their diet can cause them to have diabetes. And so if somebody has one of these small little intricate changes in their DNA, cannabinol, just like any other substance in the world, any other chemical, could trigger that and cause schizophrenia. And I'm not saying that's like cannabis. It's not like if everybody in the world smoked cannabis enough that they would get schizophrenia. I'm saying that there's some people that are set to have that. Just like if you said, there's a study that was done and it said it was something like 1 in every 10,000 people would assumedly die from their first time ecstasy use because of their genetic code, because of their genetic sequence, and they would not respond well to it. And so it's the same thing. And so there's some people that might tend to.
But, and here's, if you take that same argument, right? So if 1 in 10,000 people take ecstasy and die on their first use, right?
Yeah.
And in 1970, there was, I don't know, 20,000 people taking ecstasy. So 2 people a year died of ecstasy. And you scale it all the way up to today, and there's 200,000 people taking ecstasy, but there's still only 2 people dying.
But I mean, do you have that as data or proof, or?
Well, it is proof I'm talking about schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Schizophrenia is the same rate that it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And there's not, but at the same time, there's more marijuana users than ever. So that's where I originally was saying is you would think as the marijuana users climb, even based on your genetic code and you know what I mean, the use of marijuana could trigger this and that. You would think if users climbed, then the amount of people that were triggered would climb.
Now,
and it hasn't shown that.
Well, now when you're reading graphs, and I'm familiar with this because I did a study on that, and the same argument was proposed. And it's not that you see a specific number of schizophrenia patients. Like when you look at a chart that would suggest that, it wouldn't say in 1970s there was, let's say, I mean, this is unrealistic, but let's say there was 200 people with schizophrenia. Obviously, it's a lot more than that.
Right. Yeah.
It wouldn't say, and then it's saying that today there's 200 people with schizophrenia. It wouldn't be in that. It wouldn't be like that. The way that they'd say it is they'd say 0.2% of the population then had schizophrenia, but they say it as a percentage, and then they'd say today 0.2% of the population has schizophrenia. Now that seems like, oh, there's no change in that, and well, but the reason why is because there might not be any overall change to the entire population as an entirety. However, you also have to look at cases that haven't been documented, people that haven't, because I mean, for that to be admitted into a sort of census kind of view, then it'd have to be, of course, documented, written down like that. But that's even irrelevant. But the fact that it's presented as a percentage, because, in the 1970s, let's say we had 1,000 people that had 1,000 people in a certain population, and 0.2%. That means 2 people in that entire population would have schizophrenia. Now, Let's say today there's 10,000 people in that population, and still it was 0.2%. That means that there's 20 people now, and so there might not be a percentage change, but there's no numerical data. It's all percentage. It's all shown as percentages. Okay. So as population grows, that means there's going to be more people that have schizophrenia, but the percentage might still be the same in contrast, in retrospect, what I mean.
Right. But, and here's what I'm saying, is the percentage could stay the same. The percentage has stayed the same. And that's true with basically the inflation of people. So, right, like 0.2% is 2 people out of 1,000. And then out of 10,000, it's 20 people, right?
Yeah.
But the percentage of people that use marijuana has went up. The percentage number has went up.
And I understand that. Yeah.
So that would in turn raise the percentage rate of something like schizophrenia if they were linked. If smoking marijuana gave you a higher chance of getting schizophrenia, then the more people that smoke marijuana, the more people get schizophrenia. Whether it's 1 out of 1,000 people that smoke marijuana could potentially get schizophrenia, or it's 1,000 out of 1,000. I mean,
Yeah, but the way that you have to look at it is that, so if let's say I use the same numbers, let's say 0.2%, that means in the 1970s there was 2 people with schizophrenia. But let's say it was medically proven that one of those people had marijuana induced schizophrenia, which actually has been proven medically that it has been, because I mean there's been people that have actually had, which they've said themselves, and they've been like, I started using marijuana and schizophrenia. I mean, it's not, and that wasn't one thing, use that as a topic of discussion. That can't just be like, oh, there's one dude, he just had, that's coincidental. There's been hundreds of cases, believe it or not, like it's been documented that there's actually quite a few people that have had that. And so let's say one person was in that group. Now the rate of marijuana changes may have gone up. However, it's not the rate of marijuana users that you want to look at. It's more specific. You want to look at the rate of marijuana users that have that specific genetic code, which is a harder statistic to obviously measure, because that genetic code is a lot harder to track in people, and you don't really know that someone has it unless they are diagnosed. And therefore, So if one of those people had marijuana induced schizophrenia, then 10 of those people currently might have marijuana induced schizophrenia, not because the rate of marijuana is increased or decreased or wherever it went, but because of the fact that the rate of marijuana in users that have been prone to have schizophrenia has increased.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I don't know. My almost like my biggest I guess you would say conflict with anyone that's opposed to medical legalization or recreational legalization is marijuana. Marijuana is not bad for you, like it's bad for you to take a lot of these pills that you can go to a doctor that's went through 8 years of school and is supposed to prescribe you things that will help you, but they end up prescribing you things that you get addicted to and that end up ruining your life. And I know you say that marijuana has never been medically proven to help anything, but it has. It really has. I can't pull out any sort of specifics.
No. I see that, and I agree with that. And then I also agree with the fact that there's certain of the oils in marijuana and certain of the chemicals in marijuana that have been proven to be actually medically beneficial, which is this is the thing. However, and that's why I've always been considered. I did an essay on edibles, because I've tried all this shit, and like I said, I'm not opposed to marijuana. I'm not opposed to what I'm opposed to is calling it medical, because I think if it's recreational, then that's calling it as it is. That's calling the kettle black. That's saying it as it is. Right. But I think saying it's medical is kind of not even just misleading, but almost the other way. It's kind of it's incorrect. And I know that could be argued. Like I'm saying that could be argued, and there's a lot of statements against it, and this is one of the most argued topics ever. However, in the same idea that if you have but yeah, I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but at the same time, like for perhaps edibles in some sense, there's other oils in marijuana or some other effects that it could have. And so even considering, let's say marijuana never caused schizophrenia, let's say that's completely void, even though it's not. I'm just saying. Yeah. I get what you're saying. And I mean, let's say that's completely void, it doesn't induce schizophrenia, let's say that, right. And et cetera, et cetera. Still the fact of inhaling something that's burning is going to have, it's going to leave tar and residue in your lungs, no matter what it is. And I mean, whether it's cigarettes, but yeah,
if you vaporize it, it doesn't.
Yeah, but then again,
and granted, not everyone that's using it is going to do it that way.
Yeah,
but that is the purest way to get these chemicals that you're talking about that could be beneficial. Because absolutely, if you roll a blunt in a tobacco leaf, you're still smoking tobacco.
Yeah.
And to even further expand on that, you're still smoking something. You're
Yeah.
still inhaling
Yeah.
the burnt plant matter of something. And it's the same where it's like cigarettes wouldn't be that bad for you if it weren't for the 200 other chemicals that they put in them. But if well, and that's not even a valid argument because I don't think there's
Yeah.
any
I
sort
mean,
of
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, inhaling
qualities to
any,
tobacco, but I think weed would be good for people. I think it's good for a lot of people.
and I
I
agree
think
with
it would
and I
be good
agree
for
with that.
society.
I
Okay,
agree with that.
okay. So yeah. Your whole argument is it shouldn't be labeled as medicinally positive.
Yeah. But then I also wanted to ask you, why would you believe that vaporizing it would be better than consuming it? Because if you think about it this way, um, let's say you could take freaking spinach. Okay, let's say you take spinach. Yeah, I could eat an entire bag of spinach and I'd be fine. Just like you could eat an entire bag of marijuana, as bad as that tastes, you'd be fine. But if I dried that spinach out and smoked it, it would still be a carcinogen because I'm burning stuff and putting it in my lungs. Unarguably. So I'm saying that vaporizing it, that's one thing, but still inhaling anything that's not nitrogen, oxygen, and just the chemical makeup of what's supposed to be in the environment is probably not good for you. And I mean, there's some things that might be less bad for you, and that's arguable. But anything burning and inhaled into your lungs, and that when it's attaching to your alveoli, and it kills the alveoli in your lungs, is not good for you in that sense.
But I still think it could be good for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though it's not good for you, I guess physically, which kind of goes against everything you say when you say it's good for you. But I mean, I don't know. My whole point is I think everything should be, I don't want to say legal, but decriminalized. I mean, I think if you want to do meth on the weekends, you should be able to do meth on the weekends. Granted, you can't go out and fucking break into a house or beat somebody up or whatever it is. You're held accountable for what you do on these substances, but I don't think the government should be able to tell you what you can and cannot take.
And then I'll say that, and I'll actually take the position of marijuana in that sense, where I'm saying nobody's ever smoked. I mean, there's arguably the worst thing that's ever happened with weed is maybe somebody had too much fun listening to music or something. Had too much fun listening to music or something when they were driving. This is a maybe. There's nothing, and they maybe got in a car crash. Maybe somebody got hurt. You could do the same thing, just being distracted. You know what I mean? It's not really that different. Now, so marijuana, I believe, is in some senses, in the psychoactive sense, is actually less harmful to everybody around you than even alcohol in that sense. So I actually agree with that. However, if you were to say that something such as methamphetamines, which is extremely psychoactive, where people would see stuff and stuff like that, and you said they would be held accountable for their decisions, which I agree with, but to the extent that if you were going to give someone a drug because there's degrees of medical methamphetamine which is taken as like for ADHD medicine, stuff like that, exactly. But when it's not pure and it's in that sense, and it's kind of made in a meth lab, then also not even just that, but then when it's taken in uncontrolled doses, people are smoking it, it's not ingested the proper way, then it's going to make people do stupid things. And you can't deny that smoking a meth pipe or something like that would cause someone to do something crazy. And so you couldn't say, okay, meth is legal, and then have someone do meth and then go kill a family of four, because they're not obviously in their right mind. I mean, meth doesn't make you like you're smoking weed, where you want to go sit and watch a movie. It's completely different. And so they'd be held accountable for their things, but if they never smoked meth in the first place, that wouldn't have happened. I mean, you can't say like, oh, if you never smoked weed in the first place, the only thing that smoking weed could do, unless you're forcing it on someone else, which would be really weird, like if you lock someone in a hot box or something. But besides that, I mean, like, it's not going to hurt anybody else. I mean, you're not going to go out, you're not going to like want to go kill someone after you smoke weed. If anything, alcohol does that anymore. But methamphetamine or something, anything, heroin, anything like that, the way that those chemicals affect your body and affect your thinking, that even someone with the most logical sense, the smartest man on earth, or even the most logical, whoever, that's of course opinion based, man on earth, if he did something like that, but then he also did meth or something, it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that he would go out and do something not just illegal but harmful to other people. So I don't agree with that, in the sense that everything should be decriminalized.
Okay, so if, God damn it, I lost my train of thought again. Hold on, it'll come back. Fuck. God damn it, this shit happens to me all the time on here. Okay, yeah. Okay, yes. Okay, I found it. Okay, so I'm assuming you've never done meth, correct?
No, I can't say I have.
Okay. If meth was pronounced fully decriminalized tomorrow, so you could do meth if you want, you could do meth right now with your buried in blankets and shit like that. You could be smoking a meth pipe right now in your own house, in the privacy of your own home, and that's fine.
All right.
Does your interest in doing meth increase at all in that situation?
No, and I see your point, but at the same time, I feel the legality of it all would be, because of course, if something's made legal, if something's legalized that has been considered deemed illegal, like we can even say, I can compare this to Cuba. We weren't allowed to trade with Cuba. Going into Cuba, they opened up the gates to Cuba. You know how much revenue is being made because people are traveling to Cuba? I mean, there might not be certain people that would be like, oh yeah, I mean, because if meth is legalized, I would have no intention of doing it tomorrow, today. If you told me I had 24 hours left to live, I still would have no intention of doing meth. Like, I mean, try everything once is to an extent, if you understand that. So I mean, so yeah, but at the same time, when something's made legal, it's seen from an economic standpoint. And so then when something's seen from an economic standpoint, it's going to be sold, and there's going to be advertising in business. So the way that meth would be viewed, it wouldn't be like, oh, there's going to be some dude on the side of the street, smoking out of a meth,
Right.
cooking it on spoons, anything like that. It wouldn't be like that. It would be said, oh, then they'd be proposed medical benefits. It'd be like, oh, meth is legal, and it wouldn't be like, oh, you're going to go, tear at your own skin and, probably die within the next 5 to 10 years. It would be like, oh, you're going to see some crazy things. You're going to have great ideas, what the fuck people are going to think. And so that's the way that it's going to be seen. So it's going to be seen in kind of a better light. And I mean, then again, it's still not going to have a lot of people are going to be very opposed to it, just like there's a lot of people opposed to marijuana. But at the same sense, the way that many people would either take advantage of it and that sort of thing. And I mean, you could also say that you could argue secondhand smoke whether or not, but I mean, if somebody was smoking meth out in public, that probably would not be very appeasing to someone else. I mean, even if a little kid walked by, or and I mean, it's very unlikely. Secondhand smoke doesn't really get anyone high unless you're around them for a long time. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's when you have something to that extent of it, when it has physical, just someone I should say, I don't agree that should be in that case. Because what would happen is it would become be seen from an economical standpoint, and then people that not just aren't uneducated, but just people that you see an ad on TV and you're like, oh, I want to try that. You like where it's shown only positive, and they might not even label it that. They might be selling cigarettes with meth in it. They'll be like, try these new cigarettes, that have, they might give it a different name, they'll sugarcoat it. But in the end, it's still, there still might be people that are acting irresponsibly with it. And you can't say, like, if I said right now, if I was with you right now, I had like meth and I had a lighter and all that. And I said, now, if I was to give you this meth right now, or even if I did give it to you, let's say I was to give it to you and you were smoking it, could you promise to any? Sorry about that. Could you promise or like verify or state that there would be no chance of you doing any actions that you would not do, in the sense that could hurt? Could you say that you wouldn't like do anything that would not hurt anybody, like while you're under the influence of it? Could you say that?
No, I couldn't.
Now, if I gave you a joint right now and I said, can you tell me that if I gave you a joint right now, would you go out and would you have any intention, or can you promise me that you would go out and hurt somebody?
Yes, I could promise.
And that's what I'm saying.
But that is based 100% on the fact that I know what it is to smoke a joint and be high and be under the influence of marijuana, but I have no clue what it's like to hit a meth pipe and be high on meth. But I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to education. I mean,
I agree with that.
If you're, and that's where my point comes from. Whereas if meth's legal tomorrow, you're not going to go out and do meth, right? Because
I'm educated about that, and I completely agree with that.
You know what meth does. You know it's not a good substance, and it basically, we've been taught that it fucking pretty much ruins people's lives.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I think that's the same with anything, whether it's fucking cocaine or meth or mushrooms or LSD or anything. I mean, it all comes down to being a responsible adult and being educated about, because I mean, forget all the like serious drugs that we're talking about.
Yeah.
How many people drink, in the comments, please, anyone on here?
I think there's only one person watching, but I mean,
who drinks coffee every morning?
I did on it. I can say
you're taking a drug every morning. I mean, caffeine is a drug.
I mean, I also take Concerta, which is an methylphenidate, which is pretty, it's a stimulant for my ADHD every morning. But then again, that's not like I'm taking amphetamines or, it's not like I'm doing a line every morning. It's that I'm doing a controlled chemical that's been tested on humans and a whole bunch of other things that have been shown to have other things. And I mean, of course, it probably does have negative effects, but I mean, every morning when I wake up and I take my, my ADHD pill, I'm not going to, maybe have the, crazy delusion that's going to cause me to go attack someone. It's not going to be like that because it's a controlled substance.
But there's plenty of people that get prescribed these controlled substances, whether it's Oxycontin or Xanax, or I mean, all these different things that people get, and they might not have ever done drugs before ever in their life, and then something happens, a crisis happens, a drastic injury happens, so they get prescribed these heavy duty painkillers or these heavy duty depressant, anxiety relief pills or whatever, and they become addicted to them, and it ruins their whole fucking existence.
And I can see that, and I agree with that. And hopefully, most of the time when somebody, you know, and the way that somebody would become addicted to it is if they're not following the dosages. And I'm saying that that's not even possible. There's some people that, you know, you could take the daily amount of, you know, cough syrup, even not even, you know, just antihistamines or something. I mean, Afrin, you know, if you take Afrin for like 7 days straight, you'll have a consistently stuffy nose. And it's not because of that. It's that your body just becomes used to having that chemical in your body. And so I can agree with that. And so, I mean, but can you say that, like, if Michael Jackson, you know, he died from a drug overdose, I want to say it was fentanyl or something. I don't know, but I want to say, yeah. But I mean, I'm saying, could you, I mean, there's data that proves against this anyway, but I mean, if I even, whether you, however you want to believe it, could you say that Michael Jackson, the reason for his, like, could you say that he was taking his prescribed medication how he should have been taking it? Can you say like that, like by the doses recommended?
Oh no.
And that's why,
Absolutely
and that
not.
he died. He died from a drug overdose, and that's what I was
Right.
saying.
But I wouldn't be surprised if at the time that he was prescribed that medication that he was taking it correctly. And that's what happens. I mean, it's the same thing that kids get diagnosed ADD or ADHD, right, from a very, very young age.
Mhm.
And they get put on Ritalin or Adderall or whatever,
Yeah.
okay? And they start out with 5 milligrams, 10 milligram, whatever it is. And that works for a while until it doesn't. So they upgrade them to a stronger dose. And that works for a while until
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going all the way up until they're on the strongest fucking pill that they have. And it's still, I mean, I have a buddy that's, he's prescribed the strongest Adderall you can get.
That's what I'm on. Yeah.
Do you take them?
Yeah.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
See, he doesn't even take them. He sells them.
Oh.
Because they don't, I mean, they don't do anything for him.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the same thing if you start out taking one tiny hit of marijuana and then just slowly graduate up to now you're smoking 3-4 joints a day by yourself and it's still not getting you high, basically, is what I mean. That's what happens. And then these people, they end up having to get these drugs illegally, and so that they can take way more than the prescribed amount, because that's what it takes for them to even feel the drug. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a whole bunch of shit I got to do for school, and I enjoyed having this conversation with you. And I completely agree with you on some things, and some things
we're a little far apart.
Yeah, and you know, I'd love to discuss this in person one day if that's even a thing. But hey,
where do you live at?
I'm in Ormond. I'm in Florida, so I don't know where.
I might be down in Florida here in the next month or so. I live in Michigan.
Oh, sweet. Oh, how's it? Don't you guys get like a cold front or some shit up there right now?
Oh, fuck yeah. It's supposed to be like 5 degrees in the morning.
Damn. That's shit. You got work tomorrow?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. It is what it is, though. I don't know, though. I'll follow you.
Yeah.
We'll get back together. We'll talk some more.
All right. Well, it was nice talking to you, man, and it was a good conversation. I enjoyed it.
I did too, for sure.
All righty. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.